I have something to show you, but first let's do the AWS SDLC pipeline for the code. Let's go to the EC dashboard. First, we need to have a one system where you're gonna deploy your code. So, in my case, in my example, I have this code, this lab 2 code, and this is the EC2 instance I have, and I'm gonna start this EC2 instance. Let's see. So what we need to do, in order to make this system as a part of your software development lifecycle, we need to install the AWS Code Deploy Agent. And what is that? What is that means? Once you the code get built, that build artifact needs to deploy somewhere. And in order to deploy AWS artifact, you need to have AWS Code Agent that will talk to your AWS Code build artifacts, AWS resources, AWS the services. So this is the there are a lot of steps are there basically. So first is installing the code. Means first of all you need to update your Linux environment, and then update your install the Ruby agent. And then download this agent and install it. 5-6 steps are there which are very self-explanatory. That's something, but before that we need to install the AWS configure, means the AWS CLI kind of thing. You need AWS CLI for this entire exercise. So this is the fun thing we did. So our EC2 instance is ready. Where is that? Let's see. It should be ready. Don't know why it is not ready. Let's go to here and say start. Successfully started. Okay. Let's hope it will come up without any issues. So the first thing that we do is we go to our code commit repository. In the crash course, these things are get wind up in 1 or 2 days. So you will get a very fast kind of exercise, kind of a capstone project when you do the this crash course. So this is the code commit, my repository. You can create the repository and you can pull all your codes in the repository. We have a separate video on that. If you want, you can go through that video. And this is, if I go to this code commit repository and then see my codes, then can say this is typically your index.html code. But instead of this, you can have any other Java code also. So don't get scared. So you don't need to modify any code, but as soon as that the development team modify the code, then it will trigger the CI/CD thing. So this is my code. Everything looks good here in my code side. So I have only one branch. You can have multiple branches, then merge those branches to the main branch. Those things we have a separate video on that one. So, but we are not doing those things as a part of our pipeline demo. So this is the code commit where I have a code. Then you need to create the build projects. Build project is something to compile your code basically. So whatever the code you have in code commit, somebody has to do the compilation to build the package. Package, artifacts, everything is same. The artifacts, the father of artifact is a build. The build is something, after build, artifacts get created, and those artifacts are called package in some areas, and then we can deploy those packages through CD, continuous deployment. So here we will, create the build project. Once you create the build project, it will look like this. What you need to make sure that you have everything correct here is the project configuration. Source is your code commit. Environment, build spec file. Build spec file is something, it's your POM file in your Maven. And we will talk about that, don't worry about that. So this is a build spec file, batch file, artifact. Remember artifact we were talking about? And logs. So project is not that complex thing in AWS DevOps thing. Complexity comes when the code get complex. Always remember. If the codes are simple Java code, and I have Maven build, and after the build artifact get created, somebody will test that artifact through some testing tool like Selenium, and once they confirm, we are good to go with deployment. So this is the bit basically for this build thing. So build spec file, if you see this build spec file is very important for any build in AWS environment. Build spec file is very important. So what is that build spec file? Let's see. Build spec file will tell this build that what to do. For example, in Java or in our Maven, Java in our Node.js, or build means what exactly you want me to do that. This is the YAML file. YAML is something very important, guys. We will be learning YAML in our Kubernetes section, so don't worry about that. So let's try to open this one. So this YAML file is telling me that obviously our YAML file starts with the version, then phases. The first phase is install, right? So a build spec file is the steps that we need to perform, that build needs to perform. Build has to perform some steps to come up with the package or with the artifact. So how build will get that artifact or create that artifact? Here's the deal. Here is the process. Here is the steps. The first install Node.js, then pre-build activities. There is echo that we are in the build pre-build phase, and the build activities where you can these are the commands that you need to execute. Instead of these commands, their commands can be different, guys. So build, it's we need to work with the developer to create this file. You are not going to create on your own. Okay, and this is the post build thing. Means this build spec file is telling me to install Node.js first, okay, and then once Node.js, once you install Node.js, then this is the build command. Echo command is there to grab the congratulations. If this congratulation word is not there, listen to me, guys. If this word is not there, then this build get fail. I mean, some conditions are there, right? I mean, when you say I am doing it, I'm doing some build or something, if there is some criteria that if it is not done, then it will consider as a failure. So build spec file will define all those things. If everything is successful, build is successful. If any steps is failed, let's say the build command, what are the commands said, any command get failed, then it's the entire build get failed. So we have this build spec file. And one more thing that we have is the Appsync file. Appsync file is basically for your deployment. So once you're done with the build, this is the deployment thing. And deployment means where we are going to deploy those things. We are going to deploy on EC2 instance, right? Now, when I say EC2 instance and I'm going to deploy on EC2 instance, then what are the things I'm going to deploy? How I'm going to deploy? It's not build, guys. It's a deployment. So Appsync file is there for your deployment. So how to deploy? First, stop the application. The first you stop. After install, these are the things you need to do, and before install things you need to do. And application, after once you're done with that, application start this one, and then a validation thing. So these are the steps that you need to perform during the code deploy. Now here you might be suspicious as what is there in the. So this is basically one sample example of web server. where www HTML is the destination of the web server, where you will find the index.html file. And script is a folder here in the application side where you will find this stop application server. So you're going to stop the web server. These are the scripts are there. Everything is dependent on the script. So in deployment, you are asking the deployment. The Appsync file is telling me that the moment the app build AWS code build is done, I'm going to do this. So the first thing that you will be doing is to stop the server, install all your new stuff, whatever the artifacts or whatever you want to deploy it. Before install, you do this, install all the dependencies, then application start, then application after install. These are the things. Means you are stopping some. First of all, you want to stop the application. You want to do this before install, after install, and then application start. So these are the steps that are there, and that is something you need to do it as a part of your deployment. So what are these steps? Stop application servers, after install, start. Let's see that. It's not hard and fast, very simple. I have taken a very simple code for you guys, and throughout this example, codes are very simple, so that you can enjoy this thing. But my intention is you should enjoy. So these are the scripts that you need, that your AWS code deploy will execute it. Now, after install dependency, start application, start server, stop server, and these are the validation, those things. So these are the scripts. After install, if you see the script, then you will understand what is that. The EC2 instance ID. These scripts after install, you need to install. Go to that script. This one. Go to this EC2 instance. These are the script basically. Nothing very special about it. But whatever the artifacts are there that we want to deploy that artifact. After installation, you need to deploy this one. So these are the scripts. You need to get into that detail. Stop the server. What do you mean by stop the server? It means stop the HTTPS server. Here, it's grabbing that. It's doing the grep for this particular process ID, and then service stop. HTTPD stop means it's stopping the web server. So first is stop the web server. Install dependencies. What do you mean by install dependencies? Means if I want to make sure that my application works, and I need to install the latest packages. That's what we are doing here. Yum install -yum install is something that is for Linux command. We have a separate Linux section. Right? It's a separate Linux installation section that you can use that. So don't worry about it. If you don't know anything about Linux, also we will give you some life-saving drugs for your Linux thing. Then you install this HTTPD, right? So once you're done with your dependencies, after install, start the server. Now once you start the server, means you are starting service start HTTPD. It's service start HTTPD. Install dependencies, validate the search, stop, start, after install dependency. So these are the things that you will be deploying as a part of your AWS code deploy. Now these are the codes that we discussed, right? So now let's see the deploy build we have seen. Now in deployment, you need to create two things. One is a deployment, create the first application. This application, once you create the application, let's say if I create this application, then you will get option to create the deployment group. So deployment group, basically, this is my deployment group. Here, let's see. So this is the deployment group. If you want to understand what is there in the deployment group, there's nothing special. There's only the service role is very important. That will take care of everything of your deployment. So it's a deployment, in place deployment, Blue green, we will discuss blue green. Blue green is something, new type of deployment where, without shutting down the production environment, you are taking a replica or you are creating a dummy production environment or the pre-prod environment and patching over there, and then connect your production to that one. So end user will never come to know that you are doing patching. Here, environment configuration, you are selecting that EC2 instance where you want to deploy the things. And here deployment settings here, that will tell that, okay, you want to deploy half, you want to deploy, half at a time, once at a time, all at once. So we'll select all at once. And then it will say, save the changes. Now, we are done with that. Now, if you go to the pipeline is basically connecting this code commit to code build to code deploy. That's something like that only. So I have created here the AWS code pipeline, and here I have this source code, the code commit, then code build, and then code deploy. Now, if I want to, trigger this one, the very first thing I can do it is release change. But if you want me to do something automatically, then I will go here. That will changes get triggered. Change in the code will trigger the code build and code deploy. So let's do some change in our code. Where do you want to change? The main code, the index.html file. I'm gonna change this name. Congratulations from where? From America. Let's see. Again, we need to do this formality to create this g.com. Commit changes, you need to mention this author name, email address, and commit changes. It's a dummy change, so you're not bothered about that. Otherwise, you need to mention all the details why you are changing to something. Make it a good effort to have a documentation, guys. Always, DevOps is all about that. So otherwise, you will be in the big trouble that who did what, right? So I have changed this code. Now, if I go to my pipeline, it should be triggered automatically. It should be in progress. Yes. So this pipeline is waiting for some change. As soon as some change happens in your code commit, right? That's as soon as some change happens, it will trigger the code build. Now here the code commit change is done. We have already made the changes, so and saved it. So this is something we are good in that. And now it's time for code build, AWS code build, and very soon it will be. So remember, guys, the code build means all the section that we just saw in that YAML file. Those things are getting deployed here. Those are build operation is going on. The build spec file, it is reading the build spec file now. So whatever is there in build spec file, you can modify that build spec file, no doubt. If you want to modify, you can modify. You can, reduce something. You can reduce the steps also. But understand what is what. Understand the build spec file, importance of that. Code, don't worry about it. So codes are dependent on the projects, but the process is universal. Always remember in DevOps, codes are very specific for the project, but the code, the process of the AWS DevOps process is universal. So this is this AWS code build is going on. So let me see why it is taking too much time. It should not take this much time. Let's see. It should. Let's see. Come on. Let's see the details. Why? Phase details. Yep, it's all successful. So we should be in a good shape. Let's go. Let's see. So code build is successful. It looks like it is taking a bit of time to give me the confirmation or you can say you can refresh the page sometime. It take some time to refresh the page, and then once it get refreshed, you will see that this look like this. There was a problem with the refresh, and now our main baby AWS code deploy is running. So this entire thing, the code, the index.html file is getting deployed in my EC2 instance. What do you mean by that? It means that whatever modification we did in our index.html file, we can see those modifications once we are done with this code deploy. So the deployment is done. Very good. Now go to your EC2. Remember guys, we did modification in index.html. Welcome to congratulations from America. Now it should show me that congratulations America from the web server. So it get deployed in your EC2 instance. This is my EC2 instance, right? So I will take this public IP here, and I will, congratulations from America. It means that whatever the modification you did in your code, that went to this build state and then went to the AWS code deploy. So the application was deployed, blah blah blah. Here is my EC2 instance. This is my zone, and this is the through code deploy. So it's a lot of fun, guys. But my only suggestion is don't get nervous with the codes. Sometimes you need to work with the developer to understand the code, and then based on that you will write this Appsync file and build spec file. Though it's having a lot of fun because most of the things are in with the AWS control. You don't need to scratch your head too much for coding, but yes, having a deep understanding of those code, how the things like basically the build spec file, Appsync file, that will help. So if you are looking for a good training to crack your interviews, then please reach out to our foundation. We have started some classes also. So once the batch finishes, we'll start the new batch. But if you want to join our weekend batches, weekend classes are especially for those people who are working. This working hours are very tough. So we take 2 hours from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and we do this crash course for 4 weeks, 3 weeks to 4 weeks. It depends on your grasping, and then we do the Capstone project. So what is the Capstone project? Very big question. So this Capstone project is having these are the our GitHub repository where you will find some really tough projects like AWS Jenkins Pipeline ECS cross account, Terraform, ECS blueprints, AWS EKS Kubernetes masterclass, deploying the application in the EKS and ECS, full stack application Terraform, full stack development. No need to write the code. I'm just saying deployment. And 3-tier architecture, other controllers. These are the 6 to 7 Capstone projects are there where you will really grilled every day, because that's what we need for your cracking the interviews and work without any additional help. Listen, the important thing is here is even though you crack the interview with some help, but the real challenge comes after that. You can stay here with our near to my office, near to my home, and you can come to my home, or you can come to my office for every day while you're working from home. But it's a temporary solution. Nothing is a permanent. The permanent is something that you need to do this Capstone projects. That's it. So this Capstone project, I want to show you some Capstone project that will give you some idea about what do you mean by this Capstone project. But anyway, this is for Azure. So in Azure we have Capstone projects is something like this. So you're working here, and the steps that you need to perform is create the .NET core application locally. It's simple, then not that tough, but you need to do that. Check the GitHub and create the CI/CD pipeline. Application should be deployed in Azure Web App. Run the Azure Web App to validate the things. So this is something, these things you need to do on your own, no help. And once you do it, then you will find a lot of problems, and that's what you learn. A similar kind of project will be like 6 to 7 projects will be there. This is for Azure, but similar project will be like this project, AWS ECS DevOps using CDK. So scenario will be like you are going to deploy your application in ECS. So break that application. First you deploy that application in ECS, EC2 instance, and then break that application to the containerization. So you need to first you deploy that application in EC2 instance, and then break that application through Docker file. You write the Docker file and then create the Docker image, and Docker image will go to the ECR. So those steps are 15-16 steps are there that you need to be mastered in that. So all these things are included in your training, but training is specifically for AWS and DevOps are do different training, guys. It's not one training for both. So till then, if you have any questions, call me, reach me out anytime. I'm there to help you guys. I'm here to help you guys. Okay. Thank you.